Good afternoon, folks, and welcome back to another episode of South of Cheddar Curtain. As always, it's your boy, Devin Hine, but you know that no schnazzy intro music means no man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Lucas Mueller. Luke had some personal matters to attend to, so it's going to be me riding solo today. We're just going to sit for a nice little conversation, maybe a little 20 or 30 minutes of your time. I promise I won't take 2 hours. I'm going to say that and it'll be 4, but I really am going to do my best to keep it short and sweet. We're just going to talk about the show a little bit, what's been going on, go over the Cardinals game, go over the Steelers game, and then look ahead to tomorrow's matchup against the Carolina Panthers. So first and foremost, Luke and I would like to send out our deepest apologies. You know, we sent out an episode 2 weeks ago, which we loved doing it. We felt great. And then as we listened to it after, the audio was messed up. We heard double of Luke, which I personally don't believe there can be too much Luke in this world. Honestly, love the dude. But when it's, repeating back and then cutting off what I say, it just did not make for the quality content that you folks deserve. And then we followed that up by the following week. We recorded another great episode. I mean, it was a lot of really good analysis going into our huge matchup against Pittsburgh. The master versus the Padawan, right? Rodgers versus Love. Pittsburgh's looking good. All the storylines. And we were so hyped for it. We had a great episode. And then when we finished recording, I went to save my portion of the audio file and it said error. And I tried 15 things to fix it and I couldn't. So we felt like we were 0 for 2 on doing successful shows. And then, the schedules didn't match up this week. But I was like, bro, I'm just going to talk to the people. And I'm just going to hope that it works. So I'm hoping that anybody even hears this. Let's all cross our fingers. So assuming this works, let's roll back the clock. And let's talk about Arizona. Now, the Arizona game was not exactly one of our prettiest wins. It was another last minute touchdown to go ahead. We snuck out of Arizona with a 4-point win, 27-23. Before the Arizona game, Luke and I talked a lot about who the folk hero was going to be during that game. And I promise you that not Lucas or myself or anybody in America that is a Packer fan would have picked it to be Lucas Haversick, the kicker, who went 4 for 4 on the day, including setting a Packer record before halftime with a 60-yard kick, which proved to be huge in that game. It was typical of a lot of Packer games this season, where we get off to a very slow start. Another unfortunate trend that continued in this game was the lack of a consistent running game. Jacobs did finish the day with 13 carries, 55 yards. He was actually sick going into this game. There was some question if he was going to play. And he was very emotional afterwards in the locker room. Reporters caught him saying, I don't want anybody to ever question how much I love this team and how much heart I have for this team. And he was teary-eyed and choking to get the words out. So if you needed another reason to love Josh Jacobs, there you go. Has 2 rushing touchdowns. I believe both were in the second half, both on, for once, well-blocked plays where he is able to show his heart, show the power, show the burst. But the lack of a running game in the first half, not due to Josh Jacobs being inept, but just the run blocking, especially in the first half of these games, has just not been up to snuff. We're not quite sure why, as Luke and I have said before, with pretty much all the same pieces from last year, if not upgraded with, Aaron Banks, Jordan Morgan having another year, the fact that we drafted a man who is a literal mountain in Anthony Belton. I wish for a better explanation for it. It's still a disturbing trend. So our Packers have a slow first half, right? Like I was saying. It's 13-3. We get the ball with under a minute to go. I think it was like 30 seconds. It was something ridiculous. Love is able to get the ball to Romeo Doubs and a nice pass and a little, 15 go and just sit down, get the ball, timeout. Narvasic comes on for the field goal, 60 yards, makes it 13-6. First drive that the Cardinals have the ball after halftime. Rashawn Gary gets a sack strip fumble. He's been playing big. He had another big game in Pittsburgh. Last couple weeks, big stock up Rashawn Gary. We've been asking to see more of him. After he got off that super hot start, there was a few weeks where he was leading the NFL in sacks early on, went a little quiet. With the opportunities that are presented to him, with having Micah Parsons on the other side, we have needed him to take advantage, especially with Lucas Van Ness being out. Because obviously here, folks, Micah Parsons is Batman. But we got two Robins, and one of the Robins, Nessie's been out. So Rashawn Gary, we really needed you to step up, not only for your production, but making up for Nessie being out. And I am very thankful to report that over the past 2 weeks, Rashawn Gary has answered the call. Talking about Rashawn Gary, this is going to be a little scatterbrained, folks. I mean, this is an episode like 2 weeks ago that I'm trying to recall, and just bear with me. Because I think Rashawn Gary, I think defense, and then I think defense in this game, and I think Nate Hobbs. Trash. Absolute trash. If you forgot what happened in the game and want to go watch after you listen to the show, yeah, when you watch the Packers-Cardinals highlights defensively, it is all the first downs, essentially. Either Trey McBride just like bully balling people, or Nate Hobbs making Marvin Harrison Jr. look like his father in his prime. And I love Jacoby Brissett. He did have a very nice game. He stood in under pressure. He made some tough throws like we thought he was going to do. But Jacoby Brissett to Marvin Harrison Jr. shouldn't look like Peyton Manning to the OG Marvin Harrison. Just shouldn't happen. Shouldn't happen. So big stock down game for Nate Hobbs. Big stock upgrade, however, Quay Walker. Quay Walker looked like he was possessed out there. Quay Walker had sack and a half, TFL. You did not want to be on the opposite side of Quay Walker. Beautiful game from Quay. Micah Parsons, also a huge game. 3 sacks, including essentially the clincher. Like I said, it was a back-and-forth game. Cardinals got the ball late. It was 27-23. They're driving. They get to nearly our red zone, and Parsons has a sack late to essentially ice the game. The last play was a Hail Mary, and boys were able to bat it down. So thank you, Micah Parsons. Again, I know there was a couple weeks where he wasn't quite getting the sack production that we wanted. This was actually his first game in his career where he had 3 sacks, which I think surprised a lot of us. And I'm happy that it came as a Packer. You know, him being in Dallas for so long, I think for a lot of people, including a lot of us, it's still something that we're trying to get our brains around, is Micah Parsons being a Packer. And it's nice that he has one of those career moments in Green Bay. I think it helps that dream seem more like the reality that it is, that Micah Parsons is indeed a Green Bay Packer. Other good things from this game, Tucker Kraft had a nice touchdown. We saw again Matt LaFleur starting to amp up the Tucker Kraft touches in this game. 6 catches, 58 yards, and the touchdown. Matthew Golden had one of the bigger days of his young career in this game as well. 4 catches for 37 yards, including Jordan Love going to him on not 1 but 2 fourth and gotta have it's. One of those being on the final drive. We were backed up in our own territory. It was like a 4th and 6, and Love throws a contested ball to Golden over the middle, able to catch the ball, bring it down, maintain possession. Packers keep going. Later on that same drive, Love hits Tucker Kraft on a 4th and gotta have it. So nice to see the young guys stepping up and given their opportunities. And I know that when we recorded this show originally, Luke was really banging the hammer about how Jordan Love is not getting the respect that he deserves. And this wasn't a huge statistical banner day for him. Jordan finished for 19 for 29, $179 and a touchdown. You know, that's not going to break any records. That's not really going to attract national headlines. I think a lot of what the national pundits were saying after this game was how Micah Parsons and his 3 sacks bailed us out. Yeah, they were big. Do we win that game if he doesn't have them? There's a good chance we don't. Do we win that game if Lucas Havrisik isn't the Foku in Arizona? You know, probably not. But I promise you that if Jordan Love wasn't as clutch as he was, not only on the final drive, but just throughout the game without really having the threat of a running game, like at all, and that last second in the first half to get us into field goal range, to give Havrisik the opportunity to make the 60-yarder. I mean, that completely changed the game. I know Luke talks about it when I mentioned Uncle Mo, but that was a huge swing. Uncle Mo showed up at that point, and then Rashawn Gary getting the sack and the forced fumble on the first drive defensively. The game turned on at that point. And it's just another example that we saw throughout this game and throughout Pittsburgh. Jordan Love is playing elite ball. Jordan Love is playing elite ball. And the doubters are still doubt and the haters are still hate, but I promise you, Jordan Love and this Packer team, they keep receipts. And Lord knows it's off the Jetta curtain. We certainly do. So not the prettiest game in Arizona, but glass half full. Like, we benefit from these games, guys. We benefit from adversity, from having to come back from a deficit. When things aren't going your way, who's going to step up? When things aren't going your way, are we pointing fingers or are we rallying? And we certainly rallied in this game, and we rallied even harder in the following week. As here, let's transition to Pittsburgh. So we had all the storylines going into Pittsburgh, right? You have Jordan Love versus Aaron Rodgers. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they've been hot lately. They're looking good. They're in contention, or they were in contention for the number 1 seed in the AFC, just trailing the red hot words I never thought I would say, trailing the red hot Indianapolis Colts led by Daniel Jones. But here we are. This is the year 2025. Not only do we have that storyline, Green Bay also hasn't won in Pittsburgh since like the Civil War, essentially. And it felt like everybody was talking about how it was going to be a revenge game for Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron was going to show his old team, you were wrong. Jordan Love, you might be great, but I'm still him. And you're going to see it. You're going to see it. And you could see how invested Aaron was in this game, right? Like, he said a lot of nice things about Green Bay in the week going up to the game. He even mentioned how he's going to retire a Packer. But you saw the anger when him and his receivers weren't on the same page. The man was livid. He wanted to crush us. Absolutely. And in the first half, at points, it looked like they might have. Aaron had a lot of success on his timing throws. As has been mentioned, Aaron in Pittsburgh is not 2010 Aaron when it comes to mobility, but he certainly is a lot more mobile than what we saw in the Jets. Able to hit his guys on some rollouts. The running game was being effective. We did have Devontae Wyatt back, but Pittsburgh was still able to use their heavy packages with the tight ends, which Luke and I talked about on the mystery episode that no one knows actually exists. And Pittsburgh was able to move the ball a little bit. Aaron smartly chose to pick on Keyshawn Nixon a lot. There were a couple times where he just caught Keyshawn not looking, got a PI penalty. I believe it was late in the first half. Aaron hit DK Metcalf on a slant touchdown where it was just, it's Keyshawn on DK, and DK just boxes him out. I mean, Aaron is one of the greatest throwers of the football that we've ever seen. That has not changed just because he's on the other sideline. He's still him. He's going to take advantage of that. And he did. This is another game where the offense, starts out a little sluggish. We had an early 3-and-out. That didn't help. And it was a similar kind of situation where we're down, I want to say it was like 16-3. 16-3 sticks out because we had allowed Pittsburgh to drive in our territory multiple times. It was like 3 drives in a row where the defense buckled down. They forced Pittsburgh to send out Chris Boswell to make his field goals, and man did his job. Good for him. It's what you're paid for. One of those stunted possessions by the Steelers, which was due to Carrington Valentine and man-to-man coverage. Yeah, I said Carrington Valentine, not Nate Hobbs, because I guess Jeff Hafley listens to the people. And it was Carrington Valentine getting a lot of the snaps across from Keyshawn Nixon as CB2 as opposed to Nate Hobbs, which I certainly was happy about when I saw him out in the field, like him as opposed to Hobbs when the game started. But I was even more happy with some of the plays like this, where on a go shot, where it's, again, DK and Carrington Valentine, man-to-man, I think pretty much everyone's going to throw that ball, and CV breaks it up in the end zone to force a field goal attempt. So happy to see Hafley putting Mr. Valentine out there. He definitely put a lot of good stuff on tape. Played a lot better than Keyshawn. I would say Keyshawn was picked on several points throughout this game. He did have a little bit of redemption. TK caught a slant across the middle, and then Keyshawn thumped him out of bounds, which is kind of funny to see because Keyshawn's not little. He's 6 foot, but he looks little compared to DK Metcalf, as do most human beings. So good for you, Keyshawn. Getting a little revenge there. But so the Packers, we get the ball back, and it kind of feels like Arizona, where, we've put ourselves in a little bit of a hole. We feel like we're playing better than the score indicates, and we get in field goal range. And again, I feel like it was just like Arizona, and McManus is back, and he misses a kick short. He ended up missing 2 kicks in this day, looking a little rusty after that injury, and we'll get into maybe a little kicker competition later. But yeah, so he misses that. And then the Packers get the ball back, and we're down by, over 10. And it's, it's a little bit of stress. I felt like I said, that we were playing better than the score indicated, but you still lose a game that way, as we've seen once or twice in our fandom of the Green Bay Packers. And on a 3rd and 6, Jordan under pressure just looks like he says, F it, Tucker's down there somewhere, and F it, indeed, Tucker was down there somewhere. Catches his second 40-plus yard play of the game. An absolute ridiculous catch, and then rumble and stumble for like 30 more. I mean, Tucker Kraft on National Tight Ends Day, as Luke and others said it wasn't National Tight Ends Day. It was National Tucker Kraft Day. The man went off over 140 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, it was surprising hearing those numbers that he didn't get MVP, but the MVP in that game was Mr. Jordan Love. Because Mr. Jordan Love went on a tirade in that second half, folks. After that beautiful pass to Tucker Kraft, we got the offense back humming. Jordan Love went on a 20 straight completion streak. 20 straight. And that stat in and of itself is impressive. Being accurate 20 straight times. That's wild. But what's also wild is that when you think about it, that's also 20 straight plays that the pass blocking held up. That nobody just got blown on by. Or think about last year's receivers when I say this, that it was 20 straight pass plays where nobody dropped the ball. Could we have imagined that for stretches of last season? Where we had 20 straight completions? Just 20 straight passes where no one dropped the ball? Bonkers. Other individuals I just want to shout out. I mean, Matt LaFleur going deep and creative with some of his play calls, scheming things up beautifully, using a lot of alignment to set up plays. So, for example, the Savion Williams touchdown, which I will say, in our little Packer group text, I'll usually be like, oh, touchdown or interception, and I'll name a person like 2 or 3 times a game. So I have to be right at some point, and I was right on the Savion one. We go empty gun, which is something that we talked about after we drafted Savion Williams, that we can get him the ball in creative ways, using him when we go empty and he lines up as a receiver, and then using him almost like a running back. So he goes in motion to the trip side. It was him and another receiver out wide. Goes in motion to the trip side, and they basically just do like you can call it like a halfback screen. There's a certain type of screen that I had the term in my head, and it's just not coming out. My apologies, folks. But he's got 3 blockers out in front of him, and there's not enough Steeler defenders to get a hold of Savion. He's able to use the angle, use his speed. He's got the angle. Savion in for the touchdown. You have another play later in the game, one of Tucker Kraft's touchdowns, where it's just like an RPO read. It's like an RPO flat where he goes on a little arrow route, and you have the 2 receivers on his side basically just go and block. So Tucker, again, just takes the angle, uses his speed and his power to get through the defenders. Touchdown Packers. Matt LaFleur had a wonderful day with some of his play calling. Appreciate you, Coach. Talked about Carrington Valentine had a nice day. Mr. Tyrone Hopper, whose name has not been said a lot this season, had a key 2-point conversion attempt by the Steelers, I believe after their garbage time touchdown late. He's covering the tight end on a little out route for the 2-point play, breaks it up. Beautiful play. Mr. Tyrone Hopper, we heard all during training camp how much better he looked, and it's nice to see in the few spurts that we have seen him showing some development, being a positive player when he has been called upon. Rashawn Gary had a couple sacks in this game. Micah Parsons had a sack in this game. And the sack that Micah had was very clutch. It was on the Steelers once we had taken the lead late in the fourth quarter. While it was still in striking distance, it's like the first play of the Steelers drive, and it's like an over 5-yard sack. Like that really put the Steelers into a bind. And at that point in the game, he was turning up, and Rashawn Gary is turning up. Edgerrin Cooper also in that quarter had forced a fumble, which once it was Javon Bode recovered. We were playing complimentary football here, folks. And it was nice to feel excited about the defense having opportunities to take the ball away. To see Gary and Parsons start hunting. To see Quay, with how explosive he played in Arizona, seeing that level of play, and then Edgerrin Cooper taking it even to another level. Edgerrin Cooper was back to being Edgerrin Cooper this week. That forced fumble was clutch and huge. But speaking of Quay maybe even had a bigger moment in this game, not even during a play. Quay had pissed off DK Metcalf, who was known to be a hothead around the league. And DK had grabbed Quay by the face mask, was yelling in his face, and oh Lord, folks, if this was Quay's rookie year, what would have happened? Quay would have been out for the rest of the season because that would have been manslaughter. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no way that rookie Quay could have held in the emotion, and I think that it's difficult for most of us to hold in the emotion in that moment if someone's grabbing your face mask and screaming at you. I know I probably would have swung, but Quay didn't. And I think that just goes to show the maturity and the growth. We've seen a lot of growth from him as a player, being a lot more confident in his reads and his ability. But the thing with Quay was always the off-the-field stuff, and we haven't had any incidences, but we haven't had anything close to this. Like, this is like the worst situation for him to be in, like a trial by fire. And he passed beautifully. So shout out to you, Quay Walker. Love to see the maturity there, my guy. I'm trying to think of other things from the Steelers game. I mean, it was just the response to adversity. Oh, okay. 23 hits different. Yeah, Emmanuel Wilson. Emmanuel Wilson had over 30 yards rushing, had a little... he had like a third down conversion on a dump off where it was like 3rd and 10 and he caught it for 4 yards and then made 2 guys miss. So this was another game where the Packer running game was not as effective as we would like it to be. Josh Jacobs did have a touchdown, but in the first half, especially, real tough running. He averaged under 4 yards a carry, he being Josh Jacobs. Emmanuel Wilson did get some better looks in the second half. Is that adjustments? Maybe. Is it that 23 Emmanuel Wilson is different? Possibly. I also hit the 23-minute mark in the show, so some things the world just lines up beautifully. Love that. Could also have been that the Steelers defense got a little tired because, as again we mentioned on this show that didn't actually happen. Steelers have a lot of names, but they got a lot of old dudes that are taking up a lot of money and aren't quite as fast as they used to be. So the rotation isn't as good because they don't have enough money to go around. I don't know, but Emmanuel Wilson showing that it's okay that Marshawn Lloyd is probably never coming back, because for what a real RB2 is, I don't think we could ask much more from Emmanuel Wilson. Every time he's out there, he gives us a little pop. He gives us everything he's got, either in the running game or making a play out of the backfield. So we did hear from Coach LaFleur this past week. He was asked about Marshawn Lloyd, if he was going to be back anytime soon, and LaFleur's just like, no, I don't think anytime soon. Which, as Andy Herman pointed out, was kind of a poor job by the reporters in that room, not asking, like, was there re-aggravation? Is something else going on? Do you have a timeline? It was just left at that. But, yeah, it doesn't sound like Marshawn Lloyd is coming back anytime soon, which is unfortunate because, getting good young playmakers back is important. And I don't know if you remember, folks, but Christian Watson was back this game. Yeah, Christian Watson was back this game. It's perfect that he comes back right around Halloween because he is a nightmare for the rest of the NFC North. And here at South of the Cheddar Curtain, we're around Bear fans all the time. And I went around to some of my Bear fans at work, and I reminded them this week that, hey, I'm here for you, man. I'm like, Devin, what do you mean? And I'm like, listen, I'm here for you. Life is full of ups and downs, and we should be there for our people in their hardest moments. And y'all in trouble because Christian Watson is back. Like, the boogeyman is back. And he didn't have a huge day. I think he went like 3 catches, 80 yards. On Josh Jacobs' touchdown run in the second half, he was the key block, cracking down on the end on that play. So Josh Jacobs could basically walk into the end zone untouched. Love had just a chuck it Christian Watson's down there somewhere play in the second half. I believe it was on the first drive coming back, and Christian just makes a hell of a play coming back for it. First game back, and Jordan has that trust in him. I mean, Christian looked incredible. The sky's the limit. He was hype. You saw his talent not only as a receiver and the deep threat that he is, but also in the run blocking game, right? LaFleur's preference for the bigger framed receivers. You can really see the importance of it in the running game and in the blocking game. I'm talking about not just like run plays, but also like the Tucker Kraft play I was talking about earlier, where you basically have the 2 receivers just block, or the Savion and Williams play on the other side. Christian Watson was out there on both of those, blocking his ass off. So LaFleur, sometimes we question some of the things that you do. I appreciate you've been a lot more aggressive with your play calling lately, but man, oh man, sometimes you scheme things up super well, and just making sure you have the right guys to do exactly what you want to do. Like, you see the difference when he's out there. When Christian Watson is out there, this team, this offense, it's just different. And if you couldn't tell, folks, the vibes are high again. I feel like we had a few weeks there, weren't looking great, weren't quite playing up to the level of ball that we have seen this team play. And while Pittsburgh wasn't perfect, the way that we battled, the way that we rallied, the way that we played complementary football, the way that Christian Watson looked out there being back, CV giving me some hope that we can actually maybe have a pass deflection this season. Like, amazing. Amazing. So Mr. Rogers, vanquished by Mr. Love. Sorry, buddy. Not so sorry. All right. Let's go to the Carolina Panthers. It's Carolina Panthers. Interesting team. They are 4-4. They're coming off an absolute whooping by my second favorite team, the Buffalo Bills. The wagons were definitely circled in Carolina. The Buffalo Bills the Carolina Panthers. And what do I mean by that? Carolina Panthers have been running the ball a lot this season. They not only have the very talented, long-lost cousin of my brother-in-law, Chuba Hubbard, who had over 1,000 yards rushing last season, but they also added ex-Cowboy Rico Dowdle. And Rico Dowdle has had 2 games in the past month where he ran for over 230 yards. So they're not the Panthers of old. They're not the Panthers that we saw 2 years ago, where we barely scraped away with a 33-30 win. Now, this team, I'm not saying they're legit yet, but they're an actual opponent. Part of the reason they got whipped by the Bills so bad was due to the loss of Bryce Young, who has continued his resurgence arc a little bit. I mean, before they lost to the Bills, they were 4-3 with Bryce Young, not looking too shabby. So they have the 1-2 punch at the running game. Chuba Hubbard is back. It's mainly been Dowdle. We got the 1-2 punch of the running game, which with our questionable feels strong, but unproven depth. There we go. That's how I'll put that. The unproven depth of the ladder of our defensive tackle room. I'm talking Mr. Stackhouse and Mr. Brinston, who really do have to play on rundowns. I mean, Devontae Wyatt is getting healthier again. Hopefully he has more snaps this week than he had against Pittsburgh, but we're still going to be depending on those guys. And this is a team that will try to ground and pound you to death. They do have a couple weapons on the outside that we also have to contend with. T-Mac, their first-round receiver out of Arizona, he's like 6'4". The man is huge. He's a physical freak. And as we saw last week with a physical freak receiver and the week before, we sort of have problems with those. So I'm hoping that it's not Keyshawn. I'm hoping it's not Nate Hobbs. I'm hoping it's CV that we put on T-Mac. I think that's our best chance, and we don't really do things that way, so I'm just talking in circles for nothing. But it would be really nice if we would, because we saw Carrington Valentine with multiple pass breakups on Mr. DK Metcalf, who's one of the best in the business. And we saw Marvin Harrison Jr. cook Nate Hobbs, and we saw DK Metcalf cook Keyshawn. So when it comes to a big body receiver, Carrington Valentine's, who I went out there. Also for the Panthers, Xavier Legette, their first or second round pick out of South Carolina, I believe 2 years ago. Deep threat. He's been stepping up lately. He's starting to get going at a touchdown. And Bryce Young's last week, not against the Bills because he was out, but the week before that. So he's starting to get going a little bit. They got the 2 running backs. Don't have a whole lot to talk about on defense. They still got Derek Brown. I feel like just hates his life after he was drafted to Carolina because they've been trash ever since he got there. J.C. Horn is a fine corner, but that's just about it when it comes to their defense. So I'm anticipating on offense, we should be able to pass the ball. Derek Brown is no joke up the middle, but besides that, I really don't love what else they have around him. So I'm not saying banner day for Josh Jacobs, but I think that with a healthy mix, we should be able to move the ball well. And then defensively, this is going to be a game where, our weaknesses are going to be tested. This run defense hasn't been bad, but if you're looking at a weak spot, the latter half of our defensive tackle room, of the guys to stuff the middle, that's one of the places you want to attack. And another reason for them to run the ball is that Quay Walker is questionable with an injury. So we'll see if he plays. Nick Neiman is out, LVN is out, and Dontavian Wicks is out. So also no Nessie, so another reason for them to run the ball. And it's Carolina. It's what they're going to do. They're going to have 30, 40 carries, if not more. That's just who they are. So, again, like I said, big test for that run defense, for the young depth of the defensive tackle room. And maybe we get to see more of Tyron Hopper. It'll be interesting to see if there is no Quay. When we go nickel, is it Hopper out there or is it McDuffie next to Cooper? I'm going to say it's going to be Hopper, at least in passing downs. We like McDuffie for his sureness in the run game, but if you're looking for somebody with a little more pass coverage ability, more speed, we've already talked about Tyron Hopper earlier in the show. He's had a few pass breakups on 4th and or 2-point conversions. Like, he's been in on a few. Was one of them against an offensive tackle? Yes. Is it still a pass breakup that I'm going to celebrate? Absolutely. Tyron Hopper was a 3rd-round pick, I believe, and we don't really have a lot of those that do well. So my opinion of him is always going to be a little elevated because of that. We're always going to be a little more glass half full because of Tyron Hopper, because of that. But in all seriousness, I will be excited to see more snaps of him and see what he can do. I'd love to have Quay out there. If there is one game where I think just opponent versus opponent, not necessarily matchup specifically, because the Panthers will try to run the ball, but I feel like our offense should be able to put up enough points. And while Bryce Young has looked better, he still is mistake prone. He's still kind of little. I still think Micah Parsons and Devontae Wyatt can eat him. So if there's one game that Quay needs, has to sit, and this is maybe not the worst one in the world. Let's get down to our predictions here, folks. Do I just say 27? Because we scored 27 every point? Nah. Now we'll go 37-24 Pack, because we always give up some points in garbage time, because that's just what we do. Well, folks, I sincerely hope this is the last episode where it's just me for a little bit and that we don't have any more technical difficulties. Luke and I are doing our absolute best to be the best that we can, and we thank you guys for all your love and support. And until next time, go Pack, go.